that you beat Floyd in that fight?
Sure.
Obviously, that might have been one of the last fights that I've been to. I was at that.
Have you ever imagined what it's like to stand in the ring, face to face with a force so relentless it seems to defy reason? A force that never blinks, never backs down? Have you ever wondered which fighter could make a world champion question every move he's ever made? Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, went to war with four of the greatest to ever lace up gloves: Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Shane Mosley, and Bernard Hopkins. Against each, he stood his ground, turning pain into poetry and chaos into cold, calculated brilliance. But among those epic showdowns, one fight left a scar deeper than the rest. One opponent pushed him beyond the brink, shook his confidence, and etched his name into Oscar's memory as the man who nearly broke him. Today, we revisit De La Hoya's most punishing battles, reliving the drama, the fire, and the fallout, to uncover the name of the fighter who hit harder, dug deeper, and came closest to bringing the Golden Boy to his knees.
Why do you feel you won that fight?
When you're a fighter inside the ring,
Oscar De La Hoya's rivalry with Shane Mosley ignited on a summer night thick with tension and expectation. The Staples Center in Los Angeles pulsed with electricity as two of boxing's elites circled each other, every movement charged with the weight of hype and history. From the opening bell, Mosley erupted like a lightning strike, sharp jabs, punishing body shots, and a rhythm that disrupted everything in Oscar's arsenal. Known for his grace and precision, De La Hoya suddenly found himself chasing a ghost, struggling to match Mosley's blistering speed and unpredictable angles. Round after round, Mosley dictated the tempo, slipping through openings and hammering home combinations that rocked the Golden Boy's composure. When the final bell rang, the verdict was clear, a unanimous decision victory for Mosley. The loss stunned De La Hoya. It wasn't just a defeat, it was a wake-up call. Forced to confront his vulnerabilities, Oscar began a painful process of reflection and reinvention. This fight didn't just challenge his legacy, it reshaped it.
When you're a fighter inside the ring, when that final bell rings, you know it in your heart.
3 years later, the spotlight shifted to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, where a rematch loomed with the promise of redemption. This time, Oscar De La Hoya stepped into the ring with fire in his eyes and a strategy forged through reflection and resolve. The opening rounds unfolded like a chess match, measured, tense, deliberate. De La Hoya stalked Mosley with precision, landing sharp jabs and thudding body shots that found their mark in Mosley's ribs and skull. Mosley, still lightning fast and fluid, fired back with the same explosiveness that had earned him victory before, but this time, something had changed. De La Hoya was sharper, more patient, more surgical. By the 9th round, he surged, unleashing crisp, calculated combinations that staggered Mosley and shifted the momentum in his favor. It felt like redemption was within reach, but when the final bell rang and the scores were read, history repeated itself. A split decision win, again, for Mosley. The verdict sent shockwaves through the boxing world and remains one of the sport's most debated outcomes. For De La Hoya, it was a bitter pill. His redemption had been stolen not by fists, but by the judges' pens. And in that moment, he learned a brutal truth. Sometimes, even brilliance isn't enough.
But physically, if you won or you lost, you just feel it. It's a sensation.
Oscar De La Hoya's clash with Bernard Hopkins was more than a fight. It was a collision of two grandmasters at the height of their powers. On a charged September night in 2004, the MGM Grand Garden Arena pulsed with anticipation as the executioner, a ruthless technician, faced off against boxing's crown jewel, the Golden Boy. From the opening bell, it was a duel of minds as much as muscle. Each punch was deliberate, every movement layered with intent. De La Hoya floated around the ring, flicking jabs and circling with grace, while Hopkins stalked with chilling patience, quietly closing the distance, chipping away with body shots that carried quiet promises of pain. As the middle rounds wore on, the pressure mounted, relentless, suffocating, inevitable. Then, in the 9th round, came the moment that would echo through boxing history. Hopkins delivered a liver shot so exact, so devastating, it could have been drawn on a surgeon's diagram. De La Hoya folded, his body giving in before his spirit could protest, and hit the canvas for the first time in his storied career. The knockout was clean, conclusive, and unforgettable. With it, Hopkins didn't just win a fight, he shattered an aura.
Felt it.
Right.
Whether I was wrong or whether I'm right, I don't care, it doesn't matter.
Oscar De La Hoya's most anticipated showdown came on May 5, 2007, against the undefeated maestro of defense, Floyd "Money" Mayweather. The MGM Grand Arena in Las Vegas pulsed with electricity, a battleground cloaked in superstition, spectacle, and the blinding glare of the biggest spotlight either man had ever stepped into. From the opening bell, De La Hoya came forward like a man on a mission. His left hand fired with authority, a banner of defiance waving through the storm. He dug into Mayweather's body with punishing intent, and for fleeting moments, the game plan seemed flawless. In the 6th round, Oscar backed Mayweather into the ropes, unleashing a flurry of punches that sent a roar through the crowd. But Mayweather, ever the technician, adapted in real time. With ghost-like footwork and barely perceptible head movement, he slipped out of danger, absorbing shots with subtle shifts and answering with counters so sharp they cracked through the arena like gunfire. As the rounds wore on, De La Hoya's momentum faded. His jab, once a spear, dulled against Mayweather's fluid, impenetrable guard. By the final bell, the momentum had shifted, and the judges delivered a split decision in Mayweather's favor. For De La Hoya, it was more than a loss. It was the realization that he had shared the ring with perhaps the most elusive defensive genius the sport had ever seen.
Very best in Floyd Mayweather. Younger, in his prime,
After 4 legendary battles, one question still loomed. Which fighter gave Oscar De La Hoya the hardest night of his career? The answer came on December 6, 2008, under the bright lights of the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Across the ring stood Manny Pacquiao, relentless, explosive, and terrifyingly fast. From the opening bell, Pacquiao launched into action like a thunderclap, throwing left hands from impossible angles, his footwork flickering like lightning across the canvas. De La Hoya tried to establish control with his jab, but against Pacquiao's speed and aggression, it was like tossing pebbles at a freight train. Round after round, Manny's blistering combinations tore through Oscar's defenses. The Golden Boy, once known for his timing and movement, found his legs heavy, his reactions dulled by the storm in front of him. By the 5th round, the damage was unmistakable, his face swollen, his eyes nearly shut, each breath a struggle. He dug deep, reaching for the will that had carried him through so many wars. But Pacquiao was merciless. Every time Oscar tried to fire back, the Filipino whirlwind was already gone, striking from a new angle, a new direction, and a new nightmare. In the 7th, a brutal barrage left Oscar staggering, his aura dimming before the eyes of millions. And when the 8th round ended, his corner made the call. He could no longer continue. The referee waved it off. Technical knockout. Manny Pacquiao had not just defeated the Golden Boy, he had dismantled him. And in that moment, the question was answered. Of all the legends Oscar faced, it was Pacquiao who gave him the most punishing, humbling, and unforgettable night of his life.
Defeated, and I was over the hill, tons of injuries, so I was pretty...
When the final bell of his career had rung and the dust had settled, Oscar De La Hoya stood before reporters and fans, the once roaring arena now hushed, a place of introspection rather than battle. He spoke with humility and clarity, acknowledging Floyd Mayweather's elusive defense, Bernard Hopkins' surgical precision, and Shane Mosley's blistering speed. But when asked the inevitable question, who was your toughest opponent, his answer was immediate and unwavering: Manny Pacquiao. Not because he was the biggest. Not because he hit the hardest. But because he was something else entirely, a whirlwind of speed and aggression, a force that erased any margin for error. Fighting Pacquiao was like stepping into a chess match played at lightning speed, Oscar admitted, his voice calm but edged with awe. He didn't give me a second to think. His punches came from everywhere, and I was reacting before I even realized I was under attack. In the end, it wasn't just the punishment that defined the fight, it was the helplessness. Against Pacquiao, Oscar didn't just lose. He was outpaced, outgunned, and outthought by a fighter who turned speed into dominance and pressure into poetry.
What I accomplished that night, so maybe I was convincing myself that I won, but I did.
Oscar De La Hoya's journey through the ring was never just about the fights, it was about the relentless grind behind closed doors. From sunrise rituals to late-night sparring sessions, he approached training like a high-stakes examination, where every detail mattered and nothing was left to chance. His team operated with clinical precision. Coaches timed each punch to the millisecond, tracking combinations with the focus of scientists. Every jab, hook, and step was recorded, transformed into data points that mapped his path to perfection. Rumor has it they logged tens of thousands of representatives, filling spreadsheets dense enough to make a statistician sweat. And yet, amid the numbers, Oscar never lost the fire. Behind the analytics lived a fighter driven by instinct, hunger, and heart. He didn't just train for victory, he trained with soul, balancing the cold edge of calculation with the raw passion that made him a champion.
You were a big lightweight, similar to Ryan's build. How would you fight Tank?
Behind every champion stands a cast of characters as dynamic and unforgettable as the fights themselves. In Oscar De La Hoya's camp, each figure played a vital role in the symphony of preparation. There was Iron Mike, the no-nonsense strength coach who treated weightlifting like a sacred ritual, believing every rep was its own form of therapy. Lucia, the ever-meticulous nutritionist, brought spreadsheets packed with macros, meal plans, and exotic superfoods she swore would unlock the next level of performance. And then there was Jetstream, the travel coordinator whose uncanny ability to eliminate jet lag earned her legend status within the team. Together, they weren't just a support crew, they were a finely tuned machine, blending science with soul. A fusion of art and algorithm, grit and genius, all working in harmony to transform raw talent into championship greatness.
I mean, look, a long jab. Take a bat in there.
Oscar De La Hoya's mental game was the stuff of legend, a blend of old-school toughness and cutting-edge psychology. His training didn't begin with gloves or pads, but with visualization. Each session opened with mental drills where he replayed every possible scenario in slow motion, every punch, every counter, every shift in momentum, until the fight played out like second nature in his mind. A sports psychologist kept him grounded, dismantling doubt with probing questions and forcing him to confront his own mental edges. It wasn't enough to move like a panther, he had to think like a grandmaster, always 2 steps ahead. This fusion of tradition and innovation turned De La Hoya's mind into a weapon as finely tuned and dangerous as any punch he ever threw.
I would take a bat in there.
In interviews, Oscar De La Hoya often revealed a surprising layer beneath the gloves, an analytical mind that approached boxing like a science. With a grin, he'd casually mention studying over 50 hours of fight tape before stepping into the ring, breaking down his opponent's habits right down to their breathing rhythms. He'd reference punch output averages and footwork efficiency percentages, speaking with the precision of a data analyst immersed in the beautiful chaos of combat. Yet, for all the metrics and meticulous prep, Oscar never lost touch with the soul of the sport. The roar of the crowd, the blinding lights, the instinctual rhythm of movement. It was this rare fusion of calculation and passion, of intellect and instinct, that made De La Hoya such a magnetic force, both a tactician and a showman in equal measure.
Oh shit. You got me there.
Training camps in Oscar De La Hoya's world often resembled high-level laboratories, where sweat met science, and every detail was open to revision. New strategies were tested, like beta software, with Oscar constantly pushing the boundaries of technique. He'd fine-tune his stance, adjusting foot placement by mere inches, searching for that elusive edge. His trainers charted the results on whiteboards, tracking power output, angles, and reaction time with meticulous care. When the data pointed to an advantage, Oscar didn't hesitate. He adapted instantly, transforming theory into instinctive execution. This methodical, almost scientific approach set him apart. While grounded in boxing's rich tradition, De La Hoya brought a modern, skeptical mindset, always asking, what if this could be better? And in that question, he found innovation.
I fought every style. I fought every style in the book. I'm a huge...
Even in recovery, Oscar De La Hoya operated with the precision of a champion. Ice baths weren't just a ritual, they were science. Each session was timed to the second, with water temperatures meticulously tracked and logged into digital charts. His massage therapist used a custom-designed app to monitor muscle tension, mapping out stress zones and crafting personalized release protocols. Nutrition shakes weren't just blended, they were engineered. Every ingredient is measured to the gram, and each component is selected for its specific biochemical effect on performance and recovery. For Oscar, recovery wasn't downtime, it was a data-driven mission. A finely tuned system designed to keep his body sharp, responsive, and ready for the next war in the ring.